It's gone live. A very good afternoon to all the viewers of IndianTelevision.com and on our Facebook Live pages. Welcome to another virtual Fireside Chat with Anil Bandwari. Thank you very much for being here. She's not a regular agency head. She loves reading books and comics. DC, the Marvel Universe, and yes, Phantom is her favorite hero. Anyone who's into comics is my favorite too. And she likes to hang her hair down while seriously running the business and keeping clients' edgy side under control. She revealed her wacky side recently by releasing an in-house created video called Work From Home around working during the pandemic. It's a funny little video which has tickled quite a few on social media. Additionally, unlike many of the agency folks who shop around and hop around, she stayed put at a single media outfit for a long time until she was recruited to head OMD around 3 years ago. I'm referring to Priti Murthy, the CEO of OMD. Welcome, Priti. How are you today, Priti? Hello, Priti. Are you there? Can you hear me or you can't? Can you unmute yourself, please? Unmute. Wow. We seem to be having a technical glitch over here. Let us try again. Is there a problem with the connection? Because I can see you, but I can't hear you. I'll just speak to my tech guy. Okay, we seem to have lost Priti for a second. I think there must be a technical problem. She'll come back. And until then, she's back again. I hope it works this time and she's connecting to our audio.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, so yeah, I can see you, but I can hear you. I'd like to see you too, please, yes, Priti, and so would the audience. Oh, yes. Good. Good. This is the technical glitches that the world is faced with, and we've got to learn with this. And audiences, we are sorry about this, but we are back, and Priti is back with a lot of punch and a lot of drive. So Priti, how are you today?
I'm very fine. Thanks for a wonderful, wonderful introduction, Anil. And yes, I love comics. I still read a lot of comics. I still buy collections. I love books. So anything that is in written form, digitally or otherwise, I love picking it up. So I'm sitting in a room which is also surrounded by books around me. I like to feel the touch and feel of books around me. So yes, a little different from the usual, but I love it.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. We'll talk about books later, about your favorite authors and favorite books that you pick up and read. Right now, I'm going to talk to you about the agency. Florian Adamski has done very well with the agency over the past 3 years. You joined around the same time as him.
Yes.
And so it has, according to Convergence, OMD Worldwide had the best new business performance of any global media network in 2019.
Yes.
You all had OMD top the ranking with 2.027 billion in net new business values, and it also led the US market, the world's largest, with 1.4 billion in net new business.
Yes.
You also managed to retain your clients. You defended more than $1.2 billion in business that had been played in 2019. Approximately $500 million more than your closest competitor, than the agency's closest competitor. So, tell me, the agency has done so well. How has it done under you? And how have you fared? And how has it been like working with Florian? So, if I've got his name correct, pronounce it correctly.
Florian, yeah, you can call him Flo. Yeah. That's how he prefers. So I think it's been a transformation journey. Right at the time where I joined and Flo joined, OMD was going through its next wave of growth. I think we came at the cusp of it to bring it alive for the group. And it's been wonderful, actually, because 2.5 years now down the line, I don't feel new enough. I feel like an old hat in the Omnicom group. And I think new business is one side of the story. I think what's important is to understand how the current clients are embedded within the agency ecosystem and how we are blended into their business goals as well. I think that's the new era of agencies that we are seeing. And I think OMD has done that wonderfully. One of our greatest story of retention of our existing clients is also coming from that, whether it's Biased-Off, whether it's Nissan, whether it's Renault, Apple. These are global remits for us in India, but pitched and retained locally every time. And we see this as a growing trend. And we're very proud of the fact that we are able to go beyond a transactional relation to a partner relation, because of which we are getting retained with these brands as well. Of course, new business is important to grow because that helps the existing clients also to increase your volumes, your power equation in the market goes up. But it's also about being empathetic to more type of consumer typology. It's also understanding more different width of categories that you handle, not just FMCG or tech or auto, but we have luxury brands, we have alcohol brands, we have content-based platforms, we have a lot of app-based brands that we handle, whether it's Apollo 25 by 24/7 to Sony Live to Car Deco. These are all app-based platforms, the new age clients that we have. So it's about this width that we are able to cover uh, with the growth that has given us a different flavor and keeps us on toes and keeps us quite nimble, because of most of these categories that you handle is about how can I bring in value tomorrow, today. It's not about the quarter anymore. So
Great.
that's
And how's it been like working with Karthik?
so I've worked with Karthik for more than a decade in
I know, I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, so he's not joined in as yet. He officially joined sometime in July. So we'll wait and watch for the new phase of Omnicom with Karthik. And yes, I think we had a very great, successful combination in our early avatar, and I'm sure it'll rock here also.
So is India the big new driver for the OMD network globally? And where are you comparing to the other networks in India? How are you doing?
So of course we are at a different life stage. As I say, we are in our teenage. We just
Sure.
13 years in India. So we are still behaving like teenagers. So we will grow like that. I think compared to the other networks, we are much younger in India. The other networks are much older, and hence we are in a different life stage. And it's really, I won't say it's apples to apple comparison. It's completely different comparisons. But from a competitive space, I think we are equally equipped uh, for look at any network, whether it's performance led or performance business, programmatic data. We have something called Omni, which is our engine on data. So we have all the empowerment to fight the battle in India as well. And we're very proud of what we have delivered in 13 years.
Fantastic. That's great to know that. But, if I look at what Ashish Bhasin has been doing, he's been really firing away. He's gone the route of acquisition, growth through acquisition. Is that something which is part of your play, or there's nothing much to be acquired right now? Is it going to be organic growth?
So it has to be a combination, partnerships, acquisitions, and organic growth. A lot comes from in-house because globally we are very strong in these fields, which maybe Dentsu wasn't having much, and then they acquired. They have their own reasons to acquire. But we have a different outlook on how we will grow. And we are looking at partnerships, but we have quite a bit of it in-house itself. So we have a whole huge data ecosystem, data system. We have a data company known as Analect, which not just looks after all the global markets. We have an India partnership. So we have something equally powerful locally for us to cater to the growing demands of business, whether it's e-commerce, where we have a play in e-commerce as well. We handle e-commerce for a few of our clients as well, whether it's SEO, whether it's programmatic. So there is foothold in all these new age areas. It's about now scaling it up and making it a larger focus in the coming few decades.
So you seem to be on a safer wicket where Dentsu acquired Fountainhead. Now that entire business is at a standstill events and below the line. So do you feel a little happy as a group that you didn't go extend yourself to that extent?
I think as a group, culturally, we are very different, whether Dentsu and Omnicom, and acquisitions are viewed from a lens which are not just top line and bottom line, but also cultural fit,
Okay.
people fitment. And that is an important factor for us to consider as well. So I think we would definitely behave differently, and I'm glad that we do.
Fantastic. So now, in terms of growth, you said that it's going to be an engine of growth for the global network. What has the pandemic meant as far as that growth is concerned? Has it put a dent in your growth plans?
So as a matter of fact, for all the new age media, there's no dent. We are looking at expanding programmatic or performance or e-commerce or SEO. All that continues to grow. As a matter of fact, digital hasn't seen the dent as much. I think the pause, I would call, it's not a dent, I would call the pause happened because it's a natural calamity. I mean, your hands and
Sure.
tied, mouth and legs are all tied, and expecting numbers to grow. If the economy is degrown, I mean, you can't expect much to happen there. But if I remove that quarter, are we growing today as we are bouncing back to unlock phase one and now moving into maybe unlock phase two? Yes, we are. Am I close to what it used to be same quarter last year? We will come very close to that. But yes, you can't take away the dent that happened on that quarter, which is April, May, June. I mean, you really can't take that away.
Fantastic. So it's good news that you're going to be kind of matching what you were before the previous quarter, which is good, which is great stuff. I think not many people would share those kind of good tidings. How did you manage that, and what helped you get there?
So it isn't about, as I said, we have a lot of digitally leaned in clients, so that helps. We also have digital products that cater to the transformational needs that the business have gone through in the current phase, whether it's about scaling up e-commerce or performance or, KPI-based targeting. If you think of all those elements today, I think we were ready any which ways, and we were doing it for our clients. It was a matter of scaling up for the next 2 quarters now. Of course, your television and print have come back at a much more subdued level, definitely. But as I said, since we were quite strongly leaned into digital as a group, we have that advantage. And sometimes certain categories click, certain categories balance out. And I'm hoping that by last quarter of this year, we are seeing a much more positive outlook to the economy.
Yeah. So now, you keep mentioning digital. You've been around for a long time. So how do you manage with this digital transformation that's taking place as a professional?
Actually, it's quite, it was quite natural for me because earlier to Omnicom, I was doing a strategy role. And I was very connected with the consumer transitions for almost a decade, right? I was doing a strategy role for almost a decade.
Yeah.
So it was quite natural in understanding the transition in media habits, adoption of newer technology, and hence build a business solution basis that your recommendations can't go keeping, consumers are moving digital. You can't still go back and say, do only TV, do only print, or do only out of home, right? It has to be a much more blended ecosystem. And I found it quite easy to transition. Yes, you have to do certification to understand programmatic. You have to do certification to understand Facebook blueprint. And I think those essentials are a must for even a professional like me at my role. Because unless I do it, then I'm not fully confident of how to land with my intelligence of recommendations to client, right? I can't be shooting in thin air. So I think qualification to talk the solutions become extremely important. One is the consumer side, and one is the know-how and the technical specifications of how you do it. So I think I've been at that cusp of transition where I've seen I joined when the diary method of was moving into people meter. So I joined at that cusp. So I've seen that transition. This is the second stage of transition that I'm seeing in my career after 2 decades. And I think there is aggressive change that's going to happen in the next decade, which will be far more faster than what we have all witnessed in the last 2-3 decades. So it was comfortable for me.
Yeah, and you've made it an adage to learn 2 new things annually. I mean, that's something you express somewhere. I'd like to learn 2 new things. So what are the 2 new things you learned in the past year and in the lockdown?
Lockdown, better cooking for sure.
Okay. Were the kids happy? Was the husband happy?
Actually, my kid is neutral. He has no idea of taste. He just wants to eat chips and choco pie and ice cream. But yes, he likes his parathas and stuff like that. I'm not a very active kitchen person. I think I am happy with what I've cooked. Let me put it basic. So I'm not into baking and all. I'm just doing essentials as of now. But yes, I've tried interesting cuisine, which I wouldn't have tried otherwise. But because of lockdown, you end up cooking more stuff at home. But jokes apart, last year I got my coaching certification, 2 parts of my coaching certification. This year I'm doing my part 3 coaching certification, which is a higher order level of coaching. I also dabbled with learning keyboard last year, which I'm continuing this year. So let's see what else can I put into my plate this year as well.
So by keyboard, you mean the keyboard, actually the keyboard, musical keyboard.
Yeah, the musical keyboard, yes.
So how good are you at that? I mean,
pathetic.
Anyway, you learn something new, which is something which a lot of people
I think it just challenges your brain to, it's important to challenge your brain from the normal and push something new into it. And that is why the 2 new things every year.
Fantastic. We'll come to your coaching bit later. Now, what are the changes you've seen specifically? You said programmatic, performance, you've seen on the digital side. And what changes have you seen in the minds of marketers towards brand communication in the past, let's say before the pandemic and during the pandemic, and how is it changing now?
I think reaching out to consumers in the best possible medium doesn't change, right? Whether it's pandemic or no pandemic. I think what's layered today is the empathy towards consumers in the current time. And how can we make the communication more relevant and empathetic to that point of time? I think that's becoming more and more prominent now. Like for Biased Dog, we came with a wonderful TikTok campaign recently. I think these are stuff. I mean, I would ask myself, if pandemic was not there, would I have done it? I would have still definitely gone ahead and done it. So it is sometimes immaterial of what you deliver. But what it's forced us to think, we used to do these simulations. What if there was no TV? What if there's no print? What medium will, we used to do with these junior planners.
Sure.
That simulation just came live. What if there was no print? There was no print for almost a month. Distribution was, at least English newsprint suffered the most. A lot of cities like Mumbai are seeing it coming back now, whereas other cities, newsprint has been better circulated. So we saw that live in action. We had TV, we had ratings soaring, but we had no advertisers at that point of time. So what do you do? It's a paradoxical situation, right? I mean, you have viewership going up, but no advertisers trying to tap that in. Very few brands got onto the bandwagon. So trying to have conversations with your brand teams. And I think marketeers are mature enough to understand this distinction very quickly now. The generation that's come up also knows how to keep research well fed, as well as act nimble and fast, depending on the time of the need. I think the whole marketing community, advertising community, I'm quite inspired with what I'm seeing that's happened, not just in India, but globally as well. The kind of communication, creatives are very empathetic to consumers finally, not just gimmicky. It seems more genuine than in the past.
So you talked about the Biased Off TikTok thing. Can you tell us a little more about that? And how did it work out?
Biased Off stands for care, and it is about self-care to begin with at the fundamental level, and then family care at the next level, right? So at a self-care level, how are you taking care of yourself? And this campaign was all about user-generated content around that. And it's been a great, it's a first ever campaign of Biased Off on TikTok, and that's done wonderfully for the brand. And that to itself is a stepping stone and a learning experience for all parties involved, right? From TikTok to the agency, to the marketing community team, the digital community team, to understand how we can evolve this into a long-term solution on an ongoing basis, because it is not just television that's going to be ongoing now. It's going to be all these new age mediums that's going to be ongoing.
So that was going to be my next question. It's going to be that, are we going to be talking more digital than, I remember in time when there was Meenakshi Menon and there was Rhoda Mehta. In those days, we used to talk about television. We used to talk about Doordarshan and the private satellite channels. So, are we going to have more conversations around digital going forward as media people?
I think it really exists today. I think the uniformity of measurement, which is what will crack the code faster, because television is measured differently. Each medium of digital has got different KPIs. Your reason to enter into YouTube is very different than Facebook, than very different than TikTok, than an OTT platform sometimes. So, and the outcomes of it are also quite diverse. So getting it all together to one language is what we agencies have to focus on and specialize in. And I think increasingly we are seeing a demanded focus by the industry there, whether it's partnering with the research agencies, whether it's partnering with your MI teams, or partnering, doing customized solutions for your set of brands. that becomes more and more robust. And thanks to data and enough data freely flowing in the ecosystem, now we are able to do it smarter.
Yeah, you talked about unified currency. Now, even the existing television currency might be disrupted if TRA has its way. And another currency, they're looking at setting up another, way of measuring, another agency in place. There's some lack of clarity, but even that might go. When will we ever see something that's universally accepted by everyone? And when will all the data be shared by all the platforms freely?
I think if you look at any so-called mature markets, also like US or Australia or Europe, there's no uniformed measurement. It is very business measurement. If you go there, how is it impacting my business? I think that's the uniformity that will come in. It will come to the business matrix. It'll boil down to that. The input of measurement, which is your BARC or TAM or whatever new comes, if it comes, or SCOM score or whatever can be the input of measurement as the baseline. But the outcomes are going to be your key focus moving ahead. And that's where the unified measurement will come. How will I get all media to come and say, okay, this was my core KPI and this was my second level KPI or third level KPI?
Great. So, which of your brands have started showing some life now? In between, a lot of them had gone into, they'd got into bed because they were a little careful of the virus. And so they were cautious. So what is it? Which of the brands have started showing some positive sentiment?
So during COVID, insurance brands were quite happy doing what they were doing.
Yeah.
Which of course they did. I think FMCG essentials have been positive, definitely, because you still continue to buy your soaps and dals and attas of the world. FMCG has done well. Automobile will pick up now as showrooms are opening, as demand, as search queries are increasing. As a matter of fact, the search queries have doubled compared to last month. So obviously consumer sentiments are picking up. And we are going to see a little more traction maybe by closer to the festival, definitely in the auto category. I think these are few top categories. E-com has seen the maximum growth naturally. It's changed habits for many. Like I was talking to one of my colleagues in Mumbai, and my own family's sister lives there. And she says, you go down a building lobby, you have these huge Amazon back boxes lying down, or huge Flipkart boxes of every resident who keeps it down in the lobby for 4 or 5 hours before they pick it up. I think that the shopping mania has moved from offline to online naturally. I think that's a big shift that's happened. So these are categories that have seemed to have done well for themselves.
Yeah, but even going forward, we are looking at possibly, there was an ICMR release yesterday which said that we probably would reach peak figures in sometime either in November is what I read.
Yeah.
So what does that mean as far as your agency is concerned, as far as the advertising frat is concerned, the marketing frat is concerned?
So we are,
frat, I mean fraternity.
Yeah, I got that. We are doing 1 month at a time, not 1 day, because 1 day is too small to plan for as well. We are going monthly. We are reviewing it bi-weekly. We are taking conscious decisions to be able to quickly switch things from one medium to other medium, depending on which markets are opening up, green, red, containment, what not. I think we have that experiment in place and learnings in place now. If it's November, so be it. I think offices have opened, like in Mumbai, some of the local trains have started for essential services. So there is a mindset of, we know we have to deal with it. Let's take precautions and see how we can get back to life. I think that sentiment has been picked up. We have also done some sentiment studies. We are going to release with round 2. The round 1 showed that this was done in April, round 1, where consumers have a positive outlook still of what's happening. So I think the second version is going to come on what has the mood changed to, which we can release soon. So once I get a little more texture on that, I can talk more about that. But definitely, whether peaking in July or November, till the vaccinations come, this is the way of our life for the next few months, hopefully. Not more than that. But whatever it is what it is. So you have to handle it and live with it and look at plans and options. Things are not going to shut down or anything. We are just moving ahead with a plan B, C, D, how much ever we can create for our brands and attack the market, because consumer sentiments of purchase are slowly increasing and we can't close our eyes to that. So we have to tap into that mood and sentiment for sure.
So, and what precautions are you taking within your office premises as you're opening up? I mean, you're having the entire sanitization.
Yeah. Complete work, temperature checks, social distancing and seating. Currently, we are just started for 10% of the staff, which is optional for them to come. There's no compulsion. They can choose to come if they want to. They have to just tell HR a week in advance so that they can plan their seating and everything. So it's quite isolated in the way you work. But yes, with all the precautions that we can take care, and we are sanitizing offices, we are sanitizing parking, we are sanitizing cars, whatever can be done. And obviously, people who are dependent on public transport can't come, and we're okay with that. People are working from home. I think the agency dialogue of ghar se, to you can never work from home, to of course you can work from home has started, which is excellent for a lot of people. Like, I'm a mother, I have a 6-year-old. I mean, it's a blessing, because I can't imagine going to office, leaving my child behind without supervision. So how much can you juggle? So it's been a blessing for many to manage the current situation. And as organization, we are empathetic to people's needs as well. Young mothers, young parents, elders at home, cases where somebody in the building have COVID, they can't log into calls. We understand that. That's real. That's real today.
So in terms of which cities have you opened up the offices?
Currently, we've just started Gurgaon.
Gurgaon itself. Bombay is a long way off?
Bombay is a long way off. Bombay is a little long way off. Maybe next month. We're still under discussions because our office is in Worli, which is one of the containment zones. So we have to wait and watch. Chennai will follow suit, and then Mumbai and Bangalore. So that's the order on which we are opening.
Okay, great. And so, I don't have the courage to open my offices yet, because though we are just speculating whether we should. It's too risky in Bombay right now.
Yes.
So you probably will take a call.
Yes, Bombay is a bit high on high risk. Definitely.
Great. So, how is planning, changed from pre-COVID times to during COVID and then with unlock?
So when you say planning, what do you mean by
in terms of media planning, in terms of market strategy rollouts, in terms of
got that. So I think the long-term conversations have come down to monthly conversations and bi-monthly conversations, not even quarterly. I think that's definitely changed. The long-term views are getting adjusted basis this reality every month. So what we had as a 12-month or an 18-month vision is definitely getting adjusted, and that's the outlook with which we are planning in media as well. Are we also looking at path-breaking and transformation ideas for future? Yes, that continues to hold us engaged, because we still can't close our eyes to future. We still have to plan, but keeping it transitionary in nature. And I think advertising as a whole is very adaptive, and it's easier to then look at media solutions that are more nimble. And of course, like I'll circle back to digital. And even television, the way the television ecosystem has adapted itself to COVID, coming out with new solutions with existing programming only. I think they've done a wonderful job of hand-holding conversations with brands and giving solutions that are smarter, quicker, using the influencers. I think that's also very adaptive in nature. So there's two flung. One is looking at short-term, a monthly level, and a little bit long-term, which is 8 months to 12 months period.
Yeah, so I'm just, you said about television giving you solutions. What kind of solutions have you got for your brands? Can you give some case studies?
So I think news channels have done wonderfully because their viewership never dropped. And I think a lot of the brands first thought of news channels as a solution to communication during COVID times and partnering with them. And the same reflected in our suggestions as well. As far as GEC is concerned, general entertainment, even with old programming running, it still got a very positive traction. It still got ratings and viewership, not as much high as we thought it will be for an original content, but for a repeat program, it got a reasonable share. And I think Ramayana being, of course, a black swan event, I would say, because Mahabharata didn't get it. Only Ramayana got it. I think that black swan aside, we looked at looking at 15-day plugins of plans, or using the influencers to communicate safe hands, clean hands, or stuff like that, or partnering with influencers offline and clubbing it with online programs, or using it for trade support. I think there was a lot of other work that went into the back end, and OTT partnership with all these channels. I think that was another leg that saw growth, and we could smartly adopt that as well into the television viewing planning. Same with Google, same with Facebook. I think all our partners, we've worked beautifully during this time. We used to have regular jamming sessions for our brands that increased in this COVID times. If you ask me, the conversations on brands and solutions just tripled because we had to think in an environment where many things didn't exist. So I think that allowed us to question everything and come afresh with many thoughts. Hence, partnering with television channels, print partners, even the language print partners, and even the digital publishers, we have done extensive work around that.
I understand. So could you share some examples of something that highly pleased you, which let's say...
TikTok Biased Off is a classic example of what came around. I mean, it started with a global thought and then became Indian, and then it came out as a completely campaign-led thing, or a distribution support that Dainik Bhaskar was ready to provide for a few of our FMCG brands in markets where it was a red zone. And this was right in midst of April, May, not like when things are opened up now. These are smarter, closer to business solutions where publishers are helping us mobilize trade for the larger business good, because they were very clear, okay, this is to meet the end consumer demand. We are in the consumer business. Let's help brands meet their needs. Forget about advertising for now. I think, those are the nuggets that we could bring out very strongly that could add value to a business.
Yeah. Now, your vision for for OMD, do you see it being the same as the different elements and tools that they have at the disposal? Or do you see yourself innovating within India, possibly doing something different from the global playout?
So we do have both. We have the best of the tools globally that are India customized. So the backend is all India data. We also have India-specific tools for understanding influencers, for social listening, for sometimes even doing customers modeling. Sorry, my son just walked.
No, perfectly fine. Hi, how are you? What's his name? Let me say hi to him.
He's left.
Okay, he's a smart young lad.
Yeah. So doing business modeling for our clients like MMM or attribution modeling or elasticity modeling. All that gets done in India. But at a global level, Omni as a platform is well integrated with many tools and plugins and apps that allow us to do a lot of work locally as well. So it's a blend. I think it's a best of both, where, first we reach out to global saying, this is what we want to do. Do you have a tool that we can adopt for India? Yes, great. No, then we have enough partners locally whom we can work with or build it in-house. So both equations are happening. And my vision is to build tools, not for the sake of having 100 tools as OMD. It is actually to build tools to answer business solutions that the clients demand. So it can be one tool that fits all. It can be 100 tools if need be, but not 100 tools in realistic. I mean, the more the merrier doesn't exist anymore.
I understand. So do you see any need gaps which you could fulfill in this time period?
So we are constantly solving the need gaps, and in the time period, for example, we are looking at a lot of attribution discussions for our brands, but these are short-term attributions, and the elasticity curves might not be so strong. But these discussions do happen, but not as a tool. I don't see it as a tool solution for sure. I see it more as a business solution.
Great. So now, the world is different now. I don't know, it may take us a lot more time to go back to what was the earlier normal, where we could travel wherever we wanted, do what we wanted without, carrying a hang for what we were doing. We were so free. Now we're very careful. So even, filming of commercial is different. I was part of a commercial shoot the other day for Amul, and it was done in a very restricted manner in a home with a director, with a single camera. The shoot was with part of a family, which had a family situation. So, do you think all this, which is remote shootings, smaller shoots, animated video ads, lesser spends, are they going to be the new norm?
I don't think so. It'll last for long. It'll last till I think the virus peaks and we find a solution. I think because sometimes storytelling has to be elaborate and it has to give the might that it deserves. So budget storytelling is great for now, shooting at home, CGI. But if you look at a aspiration story of the consumers, you will need to bring that back for sure. And I think it's a short-term phenomenon. Long-term, we'll have to find more better solutions to make it larger than life for sure. Because communication is about bringing it larger than life. It's not only realistic communication always.
Yeah, but remember, marketers have tasted blood. They've understood they can do it cheap, cheerful, and yet have it effective. What happens in the future?
So I think effective is very subjective today. It's subject to category, because I'm seeing that few categories who've done cheap has not been effective. Few categories it has been effective. I think it's subject to debate as well, and I will not conclude it by saying that since marketers have tasted blood, they will continue to do that, because they will also look at, okay, is it giving me the solution, the scale of the solution that I require? Currently, the scale is not so big, but in future it goes back to being big, then you will need to input accordingly.
And you see that in which categories you see where you require that let's say a commercial which was being done in, I know that commercials are being done in 10, 15, 20 lakhs and less than that also, whereas earlier TV commercial makers were used to luxurious budgets. Even those have reduced since we had an economic slowdown, pre-COVID, but they've even shrunk further now. So
the lavish era has anyway shrunk. I mean, I think in the last 5-6 years that shrunk a lot. Where crazy budgets on production has gone for a toss. However, if there is a celebrity involved and you want to use the celebrity in the right way, or if there is no celebrity and you want to still talk about the extravagance of the brand or the way the brand is embedded in your life, and you want to push the story harder, you will need to extend that bit. Expecting that at a fringe budget and then delivering the magic is like telling, I'll spend only 10% of my earlier budget, but you have to give me the same business results. It won't work. It's the same philosophy.
Yeah, I get it. But now it's the age of the influencer versus the age of the celebrity. The influencer is a celebrity as well as, not the traditional Bollywood sports stars. There are a new bunch of celebrities coming in. Like you said, you did TikTok campaigns. So with that coming in gradually, do you think that erosion will happen on the other side?
So I see it as a dual-edged challenge we need to address. To me, the influencer and celebrity blending will start soon. But influencers are like bonfires, right? You need them. And if your idea is just a bonfire, then great, just stick to influencer. But if you want to create a movement, if you want to create a larger than life story, you need your celebrities to bring in the magic. Influencers will get it to a certain level, but the larger fire will be driven by the celebrities, and both blend very well today. I think we recommend so much influencers nowadays. Yet, for it to be a long-term sustainable business model where the brands are connected well with the influencer, then you need to look at beyond these bonfires.
Great. I mean, that's it's a different way of putting it, and thank you for sharing that. Now, in terms of print, let's get back to that. You said you had some good solutions from the regional print publications during which helped you face some distribution challenges. Do you think the print industry is going to kind of get some life into it, or are we seeing? Because I'll tell you what, I used to get about a dozen newspapers. I slowly whittled it down to 7. And I read the digital versions more nowadays. And during the COVID period and post-COVID, I haven't touched my newspaper. They're just literally lying in the corner. So do we see the survival? And I don't know if there are many like me, but if there are, then there's a bit of a challenge. And what's your perspective on this?
Yeah, call me old school. We still get 4-5 papers in my house. However, I don't read all the 5 papers. There's absolutely no bandwidth to read everything, but I do at least read 2 papers. I think little more authenticity than WhatsApp news is important. So that's where print scores. Now the format, of course, has seen a transition during this time, online versus offline. Whether physical readership can see an impact. But in regional pockets, in regional markets, I don't think the impact is as much. I think it's us English-speaking audience who are seeing it, the larger impact. But most of the print houses are not just one line of business anymore. They're into radio, they are the digital arm, they're into events, So that their legs have also gone beyond the core business of print. If that's the case, then the solutions they can offer to a brand to encompass the consumers is much larger. And I think that's the conversations we are also having with a lot of print partners, saying that, okay, it's not just about putting a front page ad or a innovation, but surround it with much more things to connect with this consumers, which is long term. And yes, it has seen as, I mean, we know the average issue readership numbers have come down for English paper. We know it's still pretty positive for all the language story. I think it will continue to be for some more years. We'll have to see for another 3-4 years before we actually see whether it's a complete shift of this current generation when they get into the, active base, whether they're shifting out of a newspaper or straight jumping into e-paper or just not reading at all. We'll need to see that.
Yeah, so for me, I read a lot of digital PDF newspapers, which is not really, I call it an e-paper, but I call them the digital PDF files is what I'm reading a lot more rather than, physical copies. So, and I belong to probably a generation before you. So it's quite confusing, right? You're expecting the next generation, and here's one generation before you is reading digital.
But you do realize that we are from markets which have gone ahead on this. But India's literacy has picked up in the last decade, right? It's reached 73-74% now. So those who are still picking up literacy in the other tier 2, tier 3, in the rural markets, they are beginning to read now. Of course, there is mobile readership and there is data and brands like Dalian, which are getting into language. Google itself providing its own solutions in Hindi. But the physical act of reading continues to be as a cultural embedded story there. I think till that exists, I see it as a growing business. So I will not look at it only from an English lens. I will look at it from a very strong language lens.
That is a fair way to look at it. But will newspapers have the same strength? The print sector have the same strength like it did, where it was commanding, let's say the English press, especially one group I'm talking about, which commanded rates, or is that era gone?
I wouldn't say it's gone, but yes, the command have shifted to their own digital platforms.
Okay, so the power is still there.
Yes, of course.
Fantastic. That's a good way of looking at it. Thank you. Now, again, you said the news channels did reasonably well during the COVID, and advertisers went to them. But whenever I spoke to the CEOs, they were always saying that we're not getting the rates. My revenue is down 50%.
Yes.
I'm not doing very well. I'm not getting the rates. I'm trying to make sense of this dichotomy.
So if a market was doing 100 billion, if COVID didn't exist, those businesses would have touched 100 number. They obviously were touching a 30, 40 at that time, or even a 50 in a good channel. So obviously the business was down, and I think when you have a situation like this, you will have to negotiate on rates. I mean, absolutely no brainer on that, because you are not working in the real environment, and there are lesser advertisers coming to your plate. So you will have to look at negotiations, and I think that is the norm even now to a large extent, because you have not gone back to a 100% normal functioning. Will that continue? Maybe not. I think we'll have to wait and watch for all the original content to come. Once the original content comes, GEC will come back to its original glory. The news will get stagnated at a certain level, and the balancing of equations will bring back the rates in a different way. But definitely there's a huge drop in revenue for everybody. No doubts around that. The market itself has gone down. So for news channels, one of the biggest categories was education. The other big was automobiles. These categories were not, e-education was advertising, but your colleges, universities, admission stories was not happening. The automobiles was not advertising. So there was a whole lot of categories that was not advertising. So there has been a drop, but whoever was advertising preferred to go to news channels. I think that was the good news.
So how much time before they get back to original pricing? You're saying we'll wait and watch. So I'll tell you what, I'm on the producers committee, etc. We are hoping to start filming by end of this month.
Yes,
and possibly by mid-July, we would have original programs on air.
Yes.
So, do you wait for another 15 days after that, or have the calls come in from the broadcast side to actually from GECs and especially the GEC side, because they're the big daddies, pitching what they're planning to do?
Yes and no, partially. I think till the shoot starts, they won't talk about it. But we know that for a fact that we're the new programming coming on board, mid-July tentative dates. I think those conversations are on. But how long this will last and how will rates come back? I think as agencies, we are so close to ground and we move on it every day. I think we will go day at a time and discuss with the channels. It is what is keeping in mind the best needs of the brands and the clients and their current budgets. We have to look at the fact of all these combination to discuss with channel partners and publisher partners to say that this is what we can bring to the table now, hence whatever rates or whatever commitments. But it's a new world. It's not going to be how it was July, August, September of last quarter, last year. Will it be the same? No, definitely not.
So the pricing will be softer than last year? Much softer?
It depends on which genre and which market and which language.
So Kerala has started up. I think in the Telugu bracket is starting up. Started up. Not they are planning to start up. Bengal has started shooting.
Yes.
Filming, and Karnataka has already started shooting.
Yes.
Tamil Nadu is expected or is about to. Maharashtra, Marathi has started filming already in different parts of Maharashtra. Some Marathi channels have announced new shows. So which of the languages do you expect to be softer than earlier? Or all languages going to be soft in terms of pricing?
So I think it is also a function of what ratings they'll be able to drive and commit to brands also. I think agencies will look at saying, is it going to be the same ratings as pre-COVID era? Then it's a different conversation that we are having. And those kind of commitments will be harder and tougher in the coming months.
Great. So is it going to be collaborative now that we all have to come out of this, or is it going to be still the other way around? Listen, I have to get efficiency for my client. I have to get effectiveness for my client. Or are the conversations going to be, we all get to get out of this mess together that we are in, which is not caused by any of us?
I think everybody's in it together before also, but there are different techniques of being together. One is those hard calls, one is those soft conversations. I think I would leave it up to the experts of negotiators to do that, to the trading team and the investment team to do it. But I think from my end, it has always been collaborative, continue to be collaborative, whether COVID or no COVID. Because ultimately, everybody is looking at working for a brand or a client. But for me, the way I would look at it is the best interest of my brand first. Definitely. More so in such times.
Wow, that is, I think it's fair, but again, I hope there is a lot more, in terms of, let's do it together, have the brand in, as a center, but also let's help each other out also.
All my publisher friends who know me know that how I work like that. Definitely work like that. I think it is never like, oh guys, I'm going to shoot this out if you don't give it to me. I don't think it's me to have those kind of conversations. I think it is a collaborative mindset, but can't compromise on clients' interests because that's my primary job.
I get it. So you've got a client of yours, Sony Live, launching with its originals on the 18th.
Yes, super exciting.
So you've got a very, you also are doing their releases as well in terms of...
Yes, we are the partners in releasing as well.
Wow. So this must be an exciting time, 3 days to go?
Yes, 3 days to go, a lot of action, a lot of work has happened, and we are really looking forward to all the new shows, not just as viewers, but the way it's getting launched as well. It's a completely refreshed brand today. It's coming out with something wonderful shows, wonderful international shows that will come into India, movies. There's lots of action coming in from Sony Live this year, definitely.
So which of the shows is exciting? Is Your Honor exciting you? Your Honor, the show that they've talked about?
Your Honor. Definitely Your Honor. And 2 more shows that are coming in, which they've not started promoting, but that too.
Fantastic. So now coming back again on the agency side now that Unlock has happened, what are the things we have to bear in mind that we should be cautious about, be careful about? What are the things that we should be excited about? Keeping in mind the entire environment.
if I look at the way we function, the blurs of weekends and weekdays have gone. Now, there's a whole debate that what is work, what is home, it is all the same. There's one philosophy, but you need your downtime to attend to your family. And I think what has happened during COVID is the work from home got extended into the weekends as well. I think for me, the focus is to allow for people to get their breathers on weekends for sure. And I leave a lot of it to the teams to decide how they want to work, but definitely pushing them a little more, saying, guys, take a chill, breathe, spend more time. Don't just sit in front of the laptop whole day and doing calls, take that breather out. And last 3 months, nobody's gone on a holiday or a break or taken a day off. I think that's the next on my worry list, because people need their day off to collect the thoughts, to come back afresh. Because you're at home, you don't get a day off. You don't think of a day off. I think that's an interesting reality that's hit us all. But as agencies, we have also changed culturally suddenly. It's like suddenly you're a smoker, now you're not a smoker. Many people have put that on Facebook, right? I've given up smoking, 90 days of no smoking and all that. It's like that, where you're so 16 hours of the day, 12 hours of the day, you're in office, right? Away from family. Now, suddenly it's 24 hours at home. This balancing of sorts has taken us time, and getting back to be in office is now going to be a new project in itself. And the flexibility is important in today's time. People are not up to traveling or don't have the private transport and have to depend on public transport, allowing them the flexibility of working from home, allowing them different time slots to work on. So that's now given, and that's a reality. These are a few things that we are looking at.
Great. In terms of the advertisers, what should they look at in the this much abused word called the new normal? What should they be cautious about? What should they keep in mind as they go about, opening their wallets, as you call it?
I think the good news is nothing is set in stone. So do as many experiments as you can today, because this is the best time to experiment with mediums and communication, because you learn a lot. The bonfires, as I call it, I love saying that, because those bonfires allow you to taste new things. So this, for all brands, this is the best time to do that. It is equally tough to do it as well. That is why you need the best partner like us to do it, because we'll understand the pulse of the medium and the market and telling you whether it'll work or not. The second most, I think, important thing is to not forget the long-term vision, because your brand still needs to live. It's like, are we going to end living now? No, we still are thinking about whoever's thinking of buying a car will eventually buy a car, will eventually buy a house. The delays might happen. So don't stop planning for future. Do plan for an era post this as well. And continue to have the long-term vision, go towards that, because you need that path. You cannot not walk without a path. I think balancing these two becomes extremely exciting for us now.
For the brands, I'm saying, and also, are some of the clients you're dealing with, are they getting ready for new launches, which they had possibly forsaken?
No, they are. They're bringing it back. So the last quarter, whatever was not getting launched is getting launched. So
in the monsoon period, period, is it?
Yeah. August, September.
So how do you expect monsoon this September? That's around the festival time, and the festival season begins September. But how do you think the monsoon period is going to fare, as far as because it's a time when specific categories are let loose, and so this entire monsoon period, Maharashtra has it a lot. The monsoons, Kerala, So how do you expect this monsoon period to do, as far as some of your clients are concerned? Are they happy about the way things are turning out?
Yeah, I think we have seen the worst in April, May, that whatever comes now looks positive. Let me put this in perspective. So July looked positive to April, right? It might not look like last year's July, but it definitely looks better than April. Anything that looks better than April is a good month. I think we are taking at it like that. July, August, there are a lot of new communication being planned for, new launches being planned for. And then the maximum thrust, of course, will be during the festive season, which we are hoping should pull up a lot more numbers for the economy as well. Where consumers go berserk and start shopping.
Great. I mean, where I am in Bombay, Nandheri, Lokhandwala, shops have opened. We've got apparel stores open. We've got, I don't think, but customers are being a little wary of entering.
Yes.
There are few and far between going in. So I think it'll take some time until they get into the habit of trusting the fact that they are safe until it, the flurry starts.
Yes, and I'm sure the local shops will figure a way out to convince slowly shoppers to come back. And I'm sure there'll be some ingenious ways of showing that we care for you and we will get you back on hold. I live in Gurgaon, and where I live, I haven't stepped out for 8 weeks now, except for an occasional ATM or some medical shop or whatever. So I haven't seen shops, to be very frank, which I intend to now very soon, because Gurgaon has opened up quite a bit. All your malls are opening slowly, and all the branded showrooms have started opening. But it's a long way from a retail industry perspective. It is a long way to recovery, definitely. Retail, travel, hotels, these have a long way to recovery, for sure.
Yeah, but when they do open, they'll give those legs that the entire economy will need the engine to keep it going further ahead when they do open it. Flights have started, far and few between, but flights have started.
Yes.
So now coming back, what should the media outlets keep in mind during this period of unlock, and what should they keep in mind? I mean, the television channels, OTT platforms, the print publishers, the digital publishers.
I think what they've done during this period is engage super actively, not active, but super actively. I think they need to continue doing that, engage more, because the pie is now limited. So everybody if you need your share, you need to engage far more with not just about, oh, you have to give me my share of business, because I'm so big or whatever, but it's more to do with how can I help your business clients grow. I think that's the conversational shift that will happen for the media houses.
Wow, that's an interesting insight. Now, as far as you're concerned, as a head of OMD, what are the key learnings that you've taken from this crisis, which will carry you in the future?
If you ask me personally, for the role that I play, I think leading it from the front and talking about it with everybody quite openly, saying these are the challenges, my personal challenges, guys, let's walk this together. And the All Is Well video, if you remember, is the outcome of that. We all used to chat regularly, and we realized that we are pulling along so well because we keep talking with each other. We are sharing our stories with each other. So there were, like, every week we used to talk with no work agenda. It's not about a client or a brand or some problem, finance, billing. No, it's just about us. I think keeping that helped people come together, one. And the second most important thing is the empathy for the brands and the consumers that you're working with. That also gave us a fresh perspective into how we are dealing with this crisis for our brands. We could come out with much smarter, swifter solutions to a lot of brands because of that. A lot of work is underplay now. A lot of releases will happen on those work. We are doing it in July. But we could do it because we said, you know what, let's listen to the consumers far better. Let us understand how brand can fit into it, because the brand ethos will continue to be the same. Brand DNA can't change. So how do we blend in both? And working very closely with the brand team on that has brought us into a completely different phase in which we look at business today. And it's a big learning. It's a empowered feeling that we as a team are feeling in OMD.
Great. Are you still carrying that sign in your cabin which says, "What would you do if you are not afraid"?
Yes, I do. It's my everyday motto.
What makes you afraid, if anything does make you afraid?
I think typically, why does one feel afraid? Because it's the unknown. Like this era that we've all gone through, we never thought we will go through, other than in American movies.
Okay.
Right? But I think we've come out quite strong as a community. And I think it has happened as, it was not that I didn't worry about my family or my colleagues or my friends or my whole office, as a matter of fact, right? From the guy who serves me coffee, tea every day. I mean, I call him up and say, "Sab theek hai na tumhare ghar pe? Koi bimar to nahi hai?" You are empathetic. But the fact that we could pull this along so beautifully, I think it's amazing feeling that the fear of unknown just unlocks the potential for us. Because if you know something, then you have no fear.
Hey, what's his name?
Yeah, what's your name? Come on, tell your name.
My name is Che.
Che as in Che Guevara.
Jay.
Jay, I heard Che. I said, wow, fantastic. So he's going to be a revolutionary. Yeah, great.
So,
Jay, I'm sorry I'm taking your mom away from you. It's another 5 minutes and we'll be off. Another 5 to 7 minutes and you'll have your mom back. Yeah.
She's gone. Yeah, I think we never thought that, earlier I used to be like, oh my God, how will I juggle my, young kid and work? But the fact that I'm doing it now, and I'm okay with the fact that he comes into client calls, say hellos to them, ask about how many children they have and whether they have less children or more children, and comment upon it, have a point of view, and talk about his school for 5 minutes. All this is allowed. He's allowed for 5 minutes to hang around, and then I'm shooing him away. But the fact that he's comfortable doing that, and I'm comfortable doing that, and my clients are comfortable doing that. I mean, this is why should we be afraid of, oh my God, what will my clients say? They're humans. They also have a family. They have their own kids, and it's mutual from all sides. I think what we start with the mindset of, I'm going to get screwed if I don't do this, or I never had that inhibition. Maybe because of my unreal mind that is in the comic world that allows me this complete freedom of thinking. And Sheryl Sandberg expressed it very well for me. She played with the words very well, and it's in my room. And I think I'm still like that. Nothing stops me.
Great. So we're going to get back to your, you mentioned Sheryl Sandberg, the former Facebook, if I'm correct.
Yeah, she's the COO of
Facebook. Yeah. So in terms of what do you read, and what keeps you, apart from comics, of course?
So I read a lot of fiction. I do read a crazy amount of fiction, Indian fiction, US fiction, Japanese books like Murakami books translated, and other authors of Japanese also. The last book I read was a book named Mindset. It's about fixed mindset and growth mindset, and how across, whether you're in parenting, in schools, in offices, in organizations, how it helps. It's a beautiful book. I just picked up a book called Keep Calm and Mummy On by a lady called Tanushree Singh, which is on parenting. I'm doing hosting her in an event soon, but it's an interesting perspective because she's got kids who are teenagers, and I've just got 1 6-year-old, so it gives me a lot of reassurance on what I'm thinking and doing. I read varied books. I read philosophy. I read Mahabharata, Ramayana, Gita for kids, Gita. And I also read all my child's book before he reads, so that if he wants to engage in a conversations, which he does, he wants to talk about the book and the characters and make jokes, and or when he's emotional about a certain character, we talk about it. So I ensure I read that. So from my childhood, I'm a big fan of Enid Blyton. I continue to be an Enid Blyton fan. A lot of fiction, which I love, and also serious books like Harry Potter. So
fantastic. So I'll share a book with you. It's How to Talk So Kids Will Listen. It's a classic. It's a classic by 2 authors. It's available. I'll share that with you.
Definitely.
I used it with around 20 years ago, and it's still relevant.
Wonderful.
So, and in terms of your Enid Blyton, there's a new Mallory Towers series come out. First term, that's in the UK. So I just consumed it online and I loved it.
Wonderful.
So great. It's been, you also said, you confessed, you would have either been a writer or a dancer. You said you're too old to be a dancer. You're never too old to dance, one. And secondly, the writing part. Are you going to write, or are you writing?
I'm hoping soon. I'm actively started, but yes, I'm hoping so.
Great.
Not very far off is what I can say.
Fantastic. So it's been nice chatting with you, Priti. I hope you had a good time.
I had a wonderful time.
Having a conversation. Thank you. I hope I didn't force that out of you by saying that.
Not at all.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And thank you to all the viewers on IndianTelevision.com for being a part of this. And thank you for being a part of this Fireside Chat with Anil Bandwari. Until we meet again, have a great evening. And thank you again. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.